Okay. So, as I mentioned, today for writing, we are going to be talking about personal narrative. Now, if you look on the board, it says personal narrative is a personal story with a clear beginning, middle, and end. So, the last 2 days in writing, what did I have you write about? Riley?
A personal narrative about the first day of school.
Personal narrative, a creative write about the first day of school. Right? What did that story need to have? Amelia? A beginning, a middle, and an end. In front of the beginning, we had a what, Zoe?
Introduction.
An introduction. After the end, you had a what? Cadence? A conclusion. So we had 5 things that were part of our story. An introduction, a beginning, a middle, an end, and lastly, a conclusion, right? So our personal narratives are stories that are from our perspective. They have I, they have me, they have my. It's something that has actually happened to us. We are going to begin a writing unit that's really big, right? We're going to spend a lot of time writing personal narratives. So today is just our time generating ideas for those. Our personal narratives need to be something that happened to us, and preferably they need to be something that are kind of important to us, or a story that we could really tell well, okay? So what we're going to do today is to be able to start generating those ideas, is we are going to be going through a chart. This chart is the one you have on your desks, and this is a first time I, a last time I, and a time I realized chart. So we're going to be walking through different times in your life and generating ideas. So to do this chart well, we need to really think about a memory that we have that was impactful. Okay, that was an important memory. I don't want you to write a personal narrative about a story that doesn't really matter to you. Like a trip you went to the grocery store with your mom on a random Wednesday, and all you learned from that trip was like that Gushers are really expensive, right? I want you to have something different, okay? Something that's impactful. So I'm going to walk you through that. When we fill out this chart, we want to think about times in our life. In the first one, that was the first time you ever did something, or the first time that you ever really did something that was impactful, okay? So for me, one of these things is the first time I ever taught. So my first time teaching. So how I'm going to fill this out is I'm going to put teaching like this. After I put that little memory, like the summary of the memory, I'm going to write a sentence that describes why I put it here. So the first time I ever taught, I had to teach in front of my fellow college students, and all I had to do was do a 5-minute lesson. I only had to stand up and talk for 5 minutes. It took me 1 week to prepare for a 5-minute lesson. Comparing it to now, it takes me about I can prepare a lesson in about 5 minutes for like an hour, right? So it's a big difference. I was shaking so bad. I was stumbling over my words, and I forgot to bring a paper with me. So I had to like freestyle teach, right? And it went terrible. It went terrible. It's awful. I did a bad job. But in the end, it wasn't about how well I did that day. It was about different things for me to grow. And I ended up falling in love with teaching. I ended up like saying, yes, I want to do this the rest of my life. So it was the first time I taught, first time teaching. So it says first time I, so I'm going to put taught here. And I'm going to put, I did terrible, but I fell in love with the job. Boom. That's all I'm going to put. So I'm thinking about the first times I did things. A next thing I could write about is maybe the first time I ever played hockey. Like I love hockey. I'm bad at hockey, but I love hockey. Right? First time I ever went ice skating. I went to a learn to skate at a hockey rink in Jackson, and I couldn't even stand up. I ran into the wall like 10 times. Right? But it made me really fall in love with like playing sports, and I really enjoy playing sports. I enjoyed watching my brother play hockey growing up. So I could write that down. Hockey. So the first time I played hockey, how about that? I forgot my eraser, so let's, well. Played hockey. And then I'm going to write a description after I list the item. Does that make sense? Okay. Then we're going to move to the last time. The last time. So remember, we're thinking about impactful things. So teaching literally changed my life, right? I do it now, daily, because it's now my life. But before, I wasn't a teacher. There was a point in time where Mr. Reed didn't teach me. I was just like a kid, doing nothing. I know. Now we're going to talk about the last time. So I want you to think about the last time you did something. Right? Maybe the last time you saw somebody, or the last time you did something that was important to you. So for me, I have had a lot of lasts. So I can remember the last time I taught last year's class. Right? The last time I was in school last year was in school. And I'm going to write a brief description about that. I remember preparing packets, but I didn't think we'd actually have to use them. I didn't think we'd use them. And then we ended up staying home for the next 5 months, right? So I didn't think there was any way we'd ever do that. And then next thing you know, we were preparing Google Classrooms for you, and we started teaching remotely. So my life completely changed with that. That was the last time I taught in school. It was very impactful for me because I didn't get to have those kids again. I miss them all the time. I see them in the hallway, and I'm like, man, if I could have just had those next 2 months with them, that would have been great, right? And going on the theme of making sure it's impactful, when I was actually going into 5th grade, my best friend, who was my cousin, actually passed away in a car accident. And I saw him the day before he passed. We were hanging out, and it was very sad for me. So I was your age, and my best friend was your age. He was also my cousin, so it was my family, and he was my friend. So I can remember the last time that I saw him. His name was Austin. So the last time I hung out with him, we dropped him off at football practice. And I remember driving away with my grandma and just waving by, and then he had to immediately start doing push-ups. So the last memory I have of him is him doing push-ups. He was not doing them well. I make fun of his mom all the time for that. Say your son was not doing them well. But I miss him all the time. But that was very important to me. That like changed my life for a very long time. That impacted me a lot. So we're trying to think about memories that kind of, yes, they don't all have to be super serious, but they were just very important to us. So the last time I was in school was very important to me, and the last time I saw my cousin was important, right? And then a time I realized. So when we're talking about time I realized, we're talking about time I realized something important. So it could be anything in your life that you realize, ooh, that's important. It could be the time you realize the oven is hot, right? My son realized that the oven is hot last week. We left, there was a burner. I had just slid a pan off of it, and he went to go touch it. He didn't quite get there, and I was like, no! And he pulled his hand back, and he just cried for like 20 minutes because I scared him so bad. Right? So if Jameson was going to fill out this chart, he might say, I realized not to touch the oven. Dad freaked out on me. Right? Right? So a time I realized, I got to look at my note here. Oh, I already have that I love teaching. But if you were going to think about a time you realized something, what might you try to throw out? The time you realized maybe that your grandpa does know what he's talking about, or your dad knows what he's talking about, or no. Leslie, what might be a thing you fill out for that?
The time I realized that my sister is not adopted.
Okay. All right, Emmett.
That's the worst part. The time I realized that when you hit a swing set, it doesn't move.
When you hit a swing set, it does move. Okay, so you can say the time I realized that playground equipment hurts. Right? And so for me, one of the big things for me and why I'm teaching here is after my son was born, he actually had to get quite a few surgeries. So he had to get quite 5 of them before he was even 9 months old. So he had a lot of surgeries. They had to save his life. They had to do a bunch of crazy stuff to him. Okay? So I remember doing that, and I remember talking, how Ms. Van Domelen talked today about, trying to get your energy from other places other than God. Well, I was trying to get my energy from myself. I thought I could handle it, and I thought I could just push my family through, and I realized that it was really, really hard. And so a time I realized that I needed Jesus was after Jameson was born. And I needed his grace and I needed his energy. So I'm going to make a note of that. And I'm going to write more after that. So that's how you fill this chart up. You try to make impactful moments, try to write down impactful moments, not just any moment, but a moment that actually meant something to you. And you are going to put 3 different moments for every category. So 1, 2, and you would need a third. I have 1, 2, and I would need a third. 1, 2, and I would need a third, right? So, by the end of class tomorrow, you are going to need 3 moments in each. You will get time in class to fill it out, so don't panic too much. But you're going to get started, and you're going to work on that for the next few minutes until I tell you to pack up. Okay? So go ahead and get started, and then we will pack up here in the next few minutes.